Hey, I'm Sun. I'm a privacy and security researcher, and you're watching the Privacy Guides. In today's episode, I want to talk to you about a project on which I've been working for the past 2 to 3 weeks. I've been down so many layers in the rabbit hole. It is just crazy. And it involves setting up my own little Raspberry Pi Bitcoin full node that is private, secure, portable. It has biometric AES-256 encryption. It is probably the best node that one can set up. And best of all, 2 things. First, there's a guide for this. So if you go on the Privacy Guides GitHub repository, there is a guide that you can follow to do this for free. It's a pretty intense guide, requires some knowledge about Linux command line and stuff like this, but all of it is public domain. Now, before I go down the rabbit hole more, there's also going to be a masterclass where I'm going to hold your hand and teach you about Bitcoin privacy and security, how to think about setting up a node like this, how to set up an Electrum wallet, how to use hardware wallets such as Trezor. And if you're interested by this, if you go on my website, sunknudsen.com, if you click on who is down for a Bitcoin masterclass, you can drop your email. By the way, all of this is self-hosted. Emails are only within my reach on the server. That is encrypted. Now time to go a little bit down the rabbit hole. In order to make it possible for as many people to have a full node like this, and the reason why having your own full node is so critical, when you have a wallet such as Electrum, and you connect to public nodes, you are sending chunks of your addresses to those public nodes. What that means is that if that public node is a bad actor, and there are many people running blockchain analytics behind public nodes, what happens is if any of your addresses is linked to your real identity, perhaps you purchased Bitcoin on a KYC exchange, all of those addresses that you're sending to that public server are now linked together because they're all part of that same request sent to the server from the same IP. That means that you just blew the privacy of your whole holding because you used a public node. The way to mitigate this is to self-host your own node. Now, not only does this make it way more private, it also makes it so that you contribute to making the whole Bitcoin blockchain more safe for everyone. So that's super cool. Now, the problem is setting up your whole node is or at least doing it well, is pretty intense. And that's where the masterclass might be really handy for most of you. The other problem is if you want to use a setup like this. Now let me use the overhead camera for this. This here is my new node. Actually, this is a prototype one. Mine is actually running right now. This here is a Raspberry Pi in an aluminum case that is great for heat dissipation. It's also using a Samsung T7 Touch SSD hard drive, which means that when this boots, I need to put my finger on it or else it won't boot. That means that it is pretty resistant to physical attacks as well as InfoSec attacks because this device connects only through Malvad, so through a VPN, which means my ISP has no idea that I'm doing anything Bitcoin related or Tor related. And once the traffic is out of Malvad, it is also through Tor. So there are 2 layers of privacy enhancing features on this device. So this will connect to Malvad, and then all of the Bitcoin traffic, once it's synced, will be done through Tor. And one connects to that node through Tor as well, which means that as part of the masterclass, I'll be talking about running Tails and using Electrum that ships with Tails to connect to the node through Tor. That means that this node per se, it's impossible to know who has connected to it because of Tor, so it adds a whole layer of plausible deniability, which is really great. And best of all, this little device here is actually powered by USB-C. It weighs nothing. It's something that one can carry when we travel and things like this. You just need to plug in an Ethernet cable and it's set. Now compare this to my old node, which is here. I could actually do some weightlifting with this. This weighs, I believe, 50 times more and is 50 times larger than the new node, and it does just the same. The only problem with the Raspberry Pi, and actually if you go on the website here, I wrote a whole story about this here, self-hosting Bitcoin full node on Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi is really slow when it comes to computing the initial block download and the Electros dataset. So to solve this, I created a torrent that is called Bitcoin dataset. So if we go here and we look at the files, we can see that there is a Bitcoin dataset. It is actually signed by my pub key, and there are checksums for the whole thing as part of the guide. So it's really impossible for someone to pull off a man-in-the-middle attack on this. Now I need your help. If you have a 500 gigabyte SSD drive that is available, if you have fast internet and a lot of bandwidth, I am really looking for us to get together to share the burden of seeding that torrent. Now, the torrent itself is tracked by my own self-hosted BitTorrent tracker, which means there's absolutely nothing illegal that has to do with those torrents, or that single torrent actually, because the tracker is only allowed to track this one torrent. So yeah, if you want to help, please get in touch. If you don't know how to follow the guides, but if you do, click on MISC. There are 2 guides. Here is how to do it on desktop using transmission, and you need to have port forwarding, so the transmission app needs to be able to connect to the internet. Everything's discussed here, and there is one here for doing this on a headless server, and that's what I'm doing right now with this. So instead of this being my node, I now have this really sexy little Raspberry Pi node, and this big monster of a computer is now helping seed that Bitcoin dataset torrent. So again, if you want to learn more about this, there's a masterclass. Go on soundknudsen.com, send your email. If you want to do it on your own because you're a nerd and you know a lot about Linux and stuff, the guide is there. Everything is public domain. So please feel free to follow it and create your own ridiculously hardened full node. And if you have some bandwidth, maybe you have a data center, maybe you have a really fast fiber line internet connection at home, maybe you have a startup and you have space in your rack, please check this out and seed the torrent. And if you don't know how to do it and you just need me to help you out, get in touch. You can find my email in the footer of the website, soundknudsen.com. So that's all I have for you today. I am super pumped. I've been down so many rabbit holes. For those of you who are not into Bitcoin, I will be sharing a lot of my learnings that are not specific to Bitcoin shortly in follow-up episodes. I wanted to update you on this, and yeah, I'll see you soon. Bye.